Welcome to Perfectly Paralegal, where we give you the tools and information you'll need to be as perfect as your attorney expects you to be. Here to help you maintain your sanity is your host, Linda McGrath-Cruz.
Hey guys! So in the last episode, we talked about tying in seemingly unrelated experience to get your foot in the door for your first paralegal gig or your next big promotion. In this episode, I wanted to talk about some ways you can increase your odds using your resume, cover letter, and interviewing skills. So first, let's talk about your resume. I'm not going to give you an entire resume lesson here. I just want to touch on some important factors. There are a lot of different types of resumes out there. You should choose a format that's clean and easy on the eyes, but also reflects your personality. Don't be afraid to change things up a little bit while still keeping it professional and organized. 1 page is great, and 2 pages are just fine if you have quality information to fill them. More than 2 pages is almost never necessary. Most people agree that you don't need your street address on your resume, and also please do away with the objective statement. We all know if you won the lottery tomorrow, you wouldn't be there. We all have the same objective pretty much. Do a decent job, get a good paycheck, pay your bills, rinse and repeat. Trying to fluff up your resume with a grand statement about how your entire goal in life is to be part of a winning team is not going to get you any extra points or Employee of the Year. Make sure to Google your name, telephone number, and email address to see what employers are going to see when they Google you. If your email address is something like hotchick69@aol.com, please open a new Gmail account for your job search. Or if you've been using your email to correspond on forums about the best way to homebrew crystal meth, or asking for advice on getting away with slipping some X-Lax into the office potluck brownies, you'll definitely need to use a new email address. I personally like a small snapshot section on the top of the resume if you have legit skills to include. Don't say things like, I can type 35 words per minute. Everyone assumes you can type. You don't need to mention typing speed unless you are literally speed racer on the keyboard. You also don't need to say that you're proficient with Word, Excel, Outlook, and so on. It's fine to just say Microsoft Office. And please, please don't mention that you're proficient in using a fax machine or that you know how to change the toner in a copier. It's assumed, and pointing out those skills will call all of your other skills into question. So save the valuable resume real estate for things that are really going to help you score the job that you want. Make sure your experience section is on point. You only need to go back about 10 years. We don't need to know that you flipped burgers at McDonald's 19 years ago unless there is some very specific reason that makes that information relevant now. Make sure that you use the same format for each job as far as title, the name of the employer, and so on. Use current tense wording for your current position and past tense wording for prior positions. Make sure that you outline the most important and most valuable responsibilities. Now, what do I mean by that? If you're a litigation paralegal who is working on trial preparation and other substantive legal matters, you don't need to include on your resume that you also ordered office supplies or answered the phone. There's nothing wrong with doing those things, but it's pretty much assumed that you're able to do them. So let's focus on things that really matter. Sometimes it's really hard to actually sit down and list out the things that you're doing on a daily basis. You know that you're doing a lot of stuff, but what are you specifically doing? If you were previously a hybrid doing secretarial and paralegal roles, and now you're trying to get into a strictly paralegal role, focus more on the paralegal responsibilities and less on the secretarial tasks. Of course, it should go without saying that you should never lie on your resume. This is not a fake it till you make it situation. Don't fluff up your resume with things that you didn't do or things that you're not proficient at. Don't overstate your skills. But at the same time, make sure that you put some effort into professionally describing your duties and responsibilities. I've put together a great resource that will help you with doing just that. It's on my blog over at miamifrp.com, but I'll drop a direct link into the episode description as well. You also want to tailor your resume to the job that you want. So remember the information that we talked about in the last episode about tying in unrelated experience. If you didn't listen to that episode yet, pop over afterwards and give it a listen. The same rules basically apply for education and other sections that you may be including. Some people like to put education at the top if they feel like their experience isn't that strong. I personally don't like to do that. I feel like it draws attention to the fact that you feel like your experience is lacking. But wherever you put it, just make sure that the information is clear and accurate. If you are listing a program that you are currently attending and haven't graduated yet, make sure you indicate that by saying something like degree expected and then the month and year you expect to finish. If you also have certifications, you can name the section education and certification rather than having two separate sections, unless, of course, you have a substantial amount of information to include in both. Once you're reasonably happy with your resume, please, for the love of God, have someone else review it for you. It doesn't need to be a paid resume service, but don't ask your grandma, who's 98 years old and has never even used a computer, or your cousin who's never held an office job but rolls amazing blunts. You need your resume to have a once-over by the kind of people who would be receiving it in a law firm. This could be more experienced paralegal, an office manager, an attorney, a recruiter who deals with the legal field, or even a teacher in your paralegal program. You need an unbiased third party to take a good look and make sure they're not getting any bad vibes or major red flags. I hate to say it, but a lot of times when we have someone who's having a very hard time finding work in the legal field, the reason becomes painfully obvious upon review of their resume. Usually there's some kind of glaring issue that could have been resolved before it was sent to 100 local law firms and promptly added to the hell no stack. So please, even if you feel like you did a fantastic job on your resume, and I'm sure you did, take advantage of having someone give it a once-over. If you don't have someone who can review it for you, join the Perfectly Paralegal Resume Review Group and we'll take a look. It doesn't cost you anything, and either you'll get a few tips on how to make it even more amazing, or you'll get mad props for being a resume superstar. Either way, it's all good. Now, once you're satisfied with your resume, don't forget a cover letter. There are a million cover letter examples on Google. You don't need to repeat everything you said in your resume. Your cover letter should complement your resume, not repeat it. Try to personalize every cover letter you send. How? Do some research. If you're responding to a job advertisement, is the person's name listed? If not, how about their email address? You can Google the email address, look it up on LinkedIn, or simply call the receptionist and ask. If you can't tell, or maybe you're submitting the resume online or by fax, try checking their website to see if staff information is listed and look for an office manager. Or search the company name on LinkedIn and then review the list of current employees. Whenever possible, you want to address your cover letter to an actual person. But if not, go with something generic, such as to whom it may concern or dear hiring manager. Your cover letter needs to hit a few key points. You need to get their attention, tell them what you have to offer, and then show them exactly why you're the perfect fit. Don't beat around the bush. Tell them exactly why. And finish it off by telling them that you look forward to having the opportunity to discuss the opening with them. Cover letters can take up a lot of time to make sure that you customize them and so on, but it really can be worth it. But do be careful and make sure you're making the right customizations. The only thing worse than not customizing your cover letter is customizing it with misinformation. Don't rave about their bankruptcy department and your dreams of being a top-notch bankruptcy paralegal if the firm doesn't even do bankruptcy. I received a cover letter like that once. My firm had previously been part of a larger law firm that had a separate bankruptcy department. Our attorneys had nothing to do with it, and we had separated from the larger firm several years before. So it really didn't give us much hope for her research skills, and obviously she didn't get an interview.
Let's take a quick moment to learn about one of our awesome business partners.
This episode of the Perfectly Paralegal podcast is brought to you by Solomon Search Group, a female-owned and operated search firm with a combined 30 years of recruitment experience in the legal field. They are headquartered in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but serve the entire state and beyond. Solomon Search recruits for law firms and corporations of all sizes and all practice areas. Learn more about their opportunities online at solomonsearch.com.
Are you already booked on the next annual Paralegal Cruise? If not, visit paralegalcruise.com today. See you on board.
Once you score your interview, there are some things you can do to increase the odds. First, please do your homework. Review the firm's website, their LinkedIn page or their Facebook page. Google them and check out any newspaper articles, notable cases, or any other information you can find. Get familiar with what they have going on. Be prepared to mention a key fact or two about the firm and the attorneys. Let them see that you've done your homework. Some interviewers will ask you straight out to tell them what you know about the firm. Before you even go to the interview, you can begin by making sure you pick out the right outfit and be prepared. The right outfit doesn't necessarily mean an expensive suit and a brand new haircut, but you should be professionally dressed, neat and clean, and avoid overpowering perfumes or colognes. Most people will tell you to avoid heavy makeup, bold jewelry, and so on. I prefer to be myself. I don't wear makeup normally, so when I go on job interviews, I don't wear makeup. I generally don't wear a suit, and honestly, I would not be interested in a job where I had to wear a suit every day. So when I was interviewing, I wore slacks and a nice top. The main thing is to be neat and look put together. It also helps if you know what type of culture the firm has as far as whether they are very formal or more casual. You can never go wrong by stepping it up a notch. Overdressed is definitely better than underdressed. When you arrive at the interview, try to get there a couple minutes early, but not extremely early. You always want to leave yourself plenty of time to arrive to account for potential traffic problems or parking issues. But if you arrive extra early, don't walk into the lobby 30 minutes before the interview. 5 to 10 minutes is perfect. Put your cell phone on vibrate or turn it off and put it away. Don't have it out while you're sitting in the lobby waiting. Be polite to everyone. Receptionists wield great power. Do not underestimate anyone. Hopefully you're already planning on being polite anyway, but make sure that you're on your best behavior even when you think no one is looking. Bring a notepad and a pen and make sure to have extra copies of your resume in case they didn't print it out or if they want you to meet with additional people. It's also a good idea to have a folder or a 3-ring binder with additional information. For example, I have a 3-ring binder which contains copies of all my certificates, degrees and transcripts, certifications, letters of recommendation, copies of articles I have published in local legal publications, and so on. No one has ever asked to actually see it in an interview, but I always felt like it was important to have it with me, and I always let them know they had the option of taking a look at it. You may also want to include writing samples from school or from prior positions with the appropriate information redacted. I personally have never been asked for a writing sample, and I do not keep writing samples in my binder, but that experience may vary and some firms do ask for them. If you need some ideas for writing samples, pop on over to the Facebook group and do a search for the words writing samples, and you'll find lots of great suggestions. Make sure you're confident. Give a good handshake and make eye contact. Now, as opposed to your resume, this is kind of where the fake it till you make it comes into play. Interviewing can be nerve-wracking. Sometimes it's easy to feel intimidated. You need to push that confidence forward even if you don't really feel confident. Remember, interviews work both ways. You should be interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. Be prepared to answer general interview questions. Interviewers might ask you questions such as, what are your biggest weaknesses, your biggest strengths, where do you see yourself in 5 years, what are your biggest accomplishments, and so on. You should also be prepared to ask them some questions as well. Use this time wisely. You could ask questions about the firm culture, how work is assigned, the type of duties you will be specifically responsible for, whether you'll be doing billable and also non-billable work, what your billing quota will be, and so on. Obviously, don't ask questions that don't fit the position. If you're interviewing for a receptionist position, you probably won't be doing heavy trial preparation, although these days nothing would surprise me. If you're not sure what they might ask, or if you need some suggestions for questions to ask them, pop over to the Facebook group and do a search for interview questions, and you'll find a lot of suggestions for both. You will most likely be asked why you're leaving your current job or why you left your last job if you're currently unemployed. Never, ever, ever badmouth your prior employer. Usually if you're leaving a negative environment and the firm has a history of negative issues, it's known in the community. So while a negative commentary may be deserved, it will never make you look good, and taking the high road is always better. You should be prepared for this question in advance. Maybe you're looking for an advancement, for new opportunities, for more challenges, and so on. Always put a positive spin on things. If you're not sure how to deal with your specific situation, just pop over to the Facebook group and we can help you with that. Try to get a business card from each person you meet with during the interview, or jot down their name so you can look them up afterwards to help you with this final step. After the interview, please do not forget to send a thank you card. An email is just fine. Some people will tell you to send a handwritten letter or to send an actual card in the mail. But these days, in the age of email, things can happen so quickly that really an email is much better. A decision could already be made by the time they receive an actual letter in the mail. You can certainly get hired without sending a thank you letter or email, but it's always a nice gesture to send a follow-up to the office manager, the attorney, the recruiter, or whoever it was that you met with. It gives them another opportunity to think about you in a positive light and may be just the thing that puts you on top of the pile if you weren't already there. I always like to send a thank you message to each person I meet with, so make sure that your message is error-free and have someone proof it if possible. It doesn't need to be long. Just thank them for their time, remind them why you would be a perfect fit for the job, and tell them that you're looking forward to being a part of the team. Show your confidence. Of course, if you hated the job and know that you would rather hit the streets than work there, there's nothing wrong with sending a thank you but no thank you message as well. This is where you thank them for their time, but very politely tell them that you think it's probably not a good fit, but that you wish them well in their search for the perfect candidate. Never burn bridges. You don't know where your next big break can come from, and sometimes, just sometimes, it can even come from a bad fit who refers you to a good fit because you made a good impression. Someone mentioned in the group the other day that they were advised not to send a thank you card because it made them seem desperate. I couldn't disagree with this more. It's true that you never want to be considered desperate, but sending a thank you card or email is not a sign of desperation. It's a sign that whoever raised you or mentored you did a good job. Seeming desperate would be doing something like calling them or emailing them every single day and begging them to make a decision. Please don't do that. If you do, the decision probably will not go the way you want. Finally, don't put your job search on hold while you wait. It's always good to be positive after an interview, but just in case the position doesn't work out or they don't make you the offer that you were expecting, don't sit back and wait while you let other potential positions pass you by. So with all of this in mind, make sure to pop over to the Facebook group and let's continue the discussion there.
Thanks for listening to the Perfectly Paralegal Podcast with Linda McGrath-Cruz. Be sure to share, subscribe, and connect with us online for even more resources and support. Learn more at perfectlyparalegal.com.